Hello everyone, let's get started with the chapter. This is the first chapter. What is democracy? Why democracy? So let's first deal with democracy, the definition, the main definition of it. Democracy comes from a Greek word, demokratia. In Greek, demos means people and kratia means rule. So combining these two becomes rule by the people. One simple factor common to all the democracies is the government is chosen by the people. In this box, you have the legit definition of democracy. Democracy is a form of government in which the rulers are elected by the people. So, the concept of democracy further helps us in classifying the different forms of government. Let's take certain examples. First, we have Saudi Arabia and United Kingdom. So these two have a monarchical government. Monarchical government means a political system based on the rule of the head of the state whose position is often hereditary. So coming to the case of United Kingdom, the head of the state is Queen Elizabeth and she rules the state. Coming to the Indian example, the head of the state is the president. The head of the government becomes the prime minister. But in the Indian government, it is the head of the government who rules the country. So in United Kingdom, it's the head of the state whose position is often hereditary, and this person often has a political system where they lead the government. Okay, so and the same applies to Saudi Arabia as well. The second kind of government is the army dictatorship, which means it's the rule of the army. Next we have is the total dictatorship where a single person or party has absolute power. So this person has unlimited power and there is no sort of consultation or anything with the people. So North Korea deals with such kind of a dictatorship. Democracy gives every man the right to be his own oppressor. Democracy consists of choosing your dictators after they've told you what you think it is you want to hear. Democracy is a device that ensures we shall be governed no better than we deserve, which means we will get governed the best, like we deserve. Let's see the democracy and its features. The rulers elected by the people take all the major decisions. So democracy we've learned is the rule by the people. So the people elect the rulers. So the rulers take all the major decisions on behalf of the people. In a democracy, the final decision making power must rest with those elected by the people. Let us consider some case studies. Case study of Pakistan. General Pervez Musharraf led a military coup in October 1999. Coup is a kind of an army. He overthrew a democratically elected government and became the president. In 2002, he issued something called the Legal Framework Order. According to this legal framework order, the president can dismiss the national and provincial assemblies. So all the ministers that were working before him, he has the authority to dismiss them. After passing this law, elections were held to the national and provincial assemblies. So he passed the legal framework order, and after this, elections were held according to his comfort. Pakistan has had elections and elected representatives has some powers. But the final power rested with the military officers and General Musharraf himself. Like I said earlier, he can dismiss and he can elect whoever he wants to. Let's take another case study of United Kingdom. Like I've said earlier, Great Britain is a monarchical type of government. What does monarchical type mean? This means the head of the state is the Queen of UK. So there was Queen Elizabeth, Queen Elizabeth I, Queen Elizabeth II, and it follows, which means it's hereditary. It formally has an elected parliament and a government. But the real power is with those who are not elected, the Queen. So like I said earlier, the Queen is a hereditary agent. So she is not really elected. But despite that, there's an elected parliament where normal citizens elect the government. But the real power exists with the Queen. In the Indian scenario, the real power exists with the head of the government, that is the Prime Minister. From the two above case studies, we can say that even though they have the concept of elections, they cannot be called as democracies. So this means even though any country has the concept of election, it's not necessarily a democratic country. So further, we can conclude that democracy means people's rule. The second point, the second feature is free and fair electoral competition. A democracy must be based on an election where those currently in power have a fair chance of losing. Okay, so it's not like anyone who's conducting an election has to win. So whoever is getting to power should also have a fair chance of losing and if not just winning. Let us consider some case studies. Let's take the example of China. Elections are held in China every 5 years to the country's parliament. That is also called National People's Congress (NPC). The NPC further elects the president. A candidate contesting elections needs prior approval from the Communist Party of China. This is the major party that's ruling China since ages. Only those who are members of CPC can contest elections. Hence, the government is always formed by the CPC. So, ideally, they don't have any opposition and the contestants are always from CPC itself. In China, the elections do not offer the people any serious choice because they're already pre-decided, right? They have to choose the ruling party and the candidates approved by it. Is this really a choice that people make or is it already pre-decided? Let's see the case study of Mexico. Mexico holds elections every 6 years to elect its president. The country has never been under any military rule like Myanmar or it's never been under any dictator's rule like North Korea. Until 2000, every election was won by a single party called PRI. Opposition parties did contest elections but never managed to win. So until 2000, there was only one party constantly winning despite another opposition party. Using many dirty tricks, like for example, forcing people to vote for certain candidates, the PRI won all the years. Hence, opposition was illegitimately defeated. So in this example, we can say that people had a choice, but in practice, they had no choice. Because of dirty tricks here that were involved backside, they had no choice. They did not know what's happening on the inside. Hence, these are not fair elections. Elections must offer a real choice between political alternatives, which makes them free and fair. So only when there are opponents in an election, you can make a right choice, and that's when people's rule can come into picture. One person, let's look into the third feature. One person, one vote, one value. The hallmark of Indian democracy is the concept of universal adult franchising. It's also called as UAF. UAF refers that, what does it mean? It refers that all citizens who are 18 years and above, irrespective of their caste or education, religion, color, race, and economic conditions, are free to vote. So anyone who are 18 years and above, irrespective of all these criteria, are free to vote. So Article 326 of the Indian Constitution mentions universal adult franchising, and it guarantees universal adult franchising. So whereas exceptions I can give you to this concept of democracy are as follows. So this is the Indian scenario, what the Indian government follows. It's called the universal adult franchising. So let us see exceptions to this. Number one is Saudi Arabia. Until 2015, women did not have the right to vote. Estonia, this is a place in Northern Europe. In this country, they had citizenship rules in such a way that people belonging to a Russian minority find it difficult to get the right to vote. So people whoever Russians living in Estonia, they were on a minority basis, and they found it very difficult to vote. So these two examples go against the very definition of democracy. It doesn't really conform to the principle of one person, one vote, and one value. There are some people being left out. In Saudi Arabia situation, women are being left out, and in Estonia's situation, the Russian minority are being left out. Democracy is based on a fundamental principle of political equality, right? The choice of electors and opportunity to choose is available to all the people on an equal basis. This is one vote, one value. The previous slide that we saw is the same as this. Hence, in a democracy, each adult citizen must have one vote and each vote must have one value. Let's go to the fourth feature, rule of law and respect for rights. Let us consider this feature with the example of Zimbabwe. So let us see the scenario of Zimbabwe. Post-electoral win of the ZANU-PF party led by the President Mugabe had the following consequences. So after this particular party had won, let us see what happened. He was definitely a popular ruler, but unfair practices followed during the elections. Let us see how. His government changed the constitution several times to increase the power of the president and make him less accountable. Opposition party workers were harassed and their meetings were disrupted. Public protests and demonstrations against the government were declared illegal. Television and radio were controlled by the government. So these points tell you that they misused their rule. They used their power to dismiss something that would go against them. Suppose like opposition party and television and radio. So whoever would speak against them, they were either jailed or they were disrupted or they were called illegal. The example of Zimbabwe shows that popular approval of the rulers is necessary in a democracy, but it is not sufficient. This is very important. It is definitely necessary, but it is not the hallmark of it. It is not sufficient. In order to assess a democracy, the situation before and after elections is to be analyzed. So, in the Zimbabwe situation, the points that we read about were the situation after elections. You cannot briefly tell a country is democratic just seeing before the election results or anything. Let's see this. In the case of Zimbabwe, post-elections, there was no free speech, No opinions accountable, no say for the opposition party. This does not imply democracy as a whole. So let's look into the direct and the best definition for a democratic government. It should be free to think and to have opinions, to express these in public, to form associations, to protect and take other political actions. Everyone should be equal in the eyes of law. Let me read that again. A democratic government should be free to think and to have opinions, to express these in the public, to form associations, to protest and take other political actions. Everyone should be equal in the eyes of law. A democratic government cannot do whatever it likes simply because it has won an election. Like the Zimbabwe example, they cannot take the entire power onto themselves. It has to respect some basic rules. Let's see, in particular, it has to respect some guarantees to the minorities. Every office bearer has certain rights and responsibilities assigned by the constitution and the law. So every country has a constitution and a certain law, and everyone who is in office, suppose like a minister, he has certain rights and responsibilities. Each of these is accountable not only to the people but also to other independent officials. Hence, coming to the conclusion, democratic government rules within limits set by the constitutional law and citizens' rights. These two, the limits that are set by the constitutional law and citizens' rights, cannot be taken as a disadvantage at all. These two are the hallmarks and it works as a limit. So you cannot cross the limit that is set by the constitutional law and citizens' rights. Both should be respected equally. Let's check your progress. Read these 5 examples of working or denial of democracy. Match each of these with the relevant feature of democracy discussed above. King of Bhutan had declared that, let's see certain examples, okay? King of Bhutan had declared that in future he will be guided by the advice given to him by the elected representatives. So what is this kind of feature? One person, one vote, one value. Right? Just like that, you can in your spare time you can take a look at this and match it with the following feature. Let's continue next with the topic of why democracy.
Enroll for the course for class 9 for free. The link and the coupon code are given in the description below. Also, join the coaching or extra help classes.